Hey guys, welcome to May 12th, and I don't even have any idea what week this is of quarantine, but just a few more days left, just a few more days left to go. All right, so the 80s web quest, you guys should have turned that in, and then for your attendance check, you should have done the sorry, the Ed Puzzle Reagan Revolution video. All right, and that's due tomorrow. Okay, so make sure you guys get that finished up, and we'll go over that a little later. But the 80s web quest, you guys were just click on the links and read all of them up. What were the popular electoral vote results for the 80 election? Reagan won. I mean, I can click and show, but popular vote, Carter got 35 million, Reagan got 43 million plus. The electoral vote wasn't even close. It was 489 to 49. It was one of the biggest landslides in American history until 1984, where Reagan won by even more when he beat Walter Mondale. So, how did groups voted in 1980? So, this one was just looking at breaking down the groups of people, how they voted. So, you can see men, Reagan got 55% of the vote. Carter got 38% of the vote of men. Women voters, Reagan got 47, Carter got 46%. White voters, Reagan got 56, Carter got 36. African American voters, this is the one group where Carter just buried Reagan, 83% to 14%, and then it breaks it all down by age. So as long as you guys looked at all of that, so African American voters voted overwhelmingly in Carter. What did you notice about young people? It was very close, 45 to 44%, but Carter did win barely. Um, what age did you start seeing a notable difference? Where did you really start seeing a big difference? 30 and up. Reagan won the 30 and over vote by a lot. And then who did the wealthiest Americans vote for? Ronald Reagan, because he was talking about tax cuts and fixing the economy and everything else. All right, so then the cartoon or the commercials, the Republican door slam and sapphire ads. What issues Ronald Reagan raising? The Republican door slam was raising the issue that because of Carter's bad economy, people weren't able to afford houses or anything. And the sapphire ad was saying Carter's weak, and that was what Iran wanted. The Ayatollah Khomeini, who had just taken over Iran. Um, Jimmy Carter Lorraine in the Bible ads. The Jimmy Carter Lorraine ad, he was a peacemaker. So you have the mom talking about she has 3 teenage sons and she's glad that Carter's making peace so they won't be drafted and sent to fight. And then the Bible ad was talking about how Carter is a very deeply religious man, a man of faith, but he understands separation of church and state. Which candidate do you think did a better job, and why were their ads more effective? That's your opinion. So, um, your opinion there. Conservatism and the rise of Reagan. What message did conservatives bring to the nation in 1980? Fix the economy, fix the economy, fix the economy. What group did Jerry Falwell lead? The moral majority, the religious right. What was and still is a galvanizing issue that helped to elect Reagan? And why do they call Reagan the great communicator? He's a really good speaker. He's really good at talking to people. People from both parties actually liked Reagan. So if you saw some of the commercials, one of the commercials you watched was paid for by Democrats for Ronald Reagan. So he had support from both parties. All right, economic policy. What is Reaganomics? Reaganomics was the idea that you give tax cuts and everything to businesses and wealthy, and the money will work its way down to everyone else. It's also called trickle-down economy. If you've ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it's called voodoo economics, right, in that movie. How did he attempt to fix the economy? Cutting taxes and appointed a new chairman of the Fed. Right? What were economic successes and failures? Successes, inflation started getting back under control. It took a while to get unemployment and everything back down. Right? What happened on January 28th, 1986? The Space Shuttle Challenger lifted off and exploded shortly after takeoff. Who was Krista McCullough? They had a nationwide contest to select a teacher. So Kristen McCullough was a teacher that was going to go to space. So the big deal about this launch was you had lots and lots of school-age children. I was in fourth grade when this happened, and we were watching it when it happened. So we were watching live when the space shuttle went up, and shortly after takeoff, it exploded and it killed everyone on board. Why did Sandra Day O'Connor make history? She was the first female Supreme Court justice. Right, the Gulf War, which the link didn't work, so hopefully you guys saw I sent the link on a separate message. What sparked the Gulf War? Iraq invaded Kuwait. What was Operation Desert Storm? It was the ground offensive to drive Iraq out of Kuwait. What were the terms of the ceasefire? Iraq withdrew. Saddam Hussein stayed in power, but it was an overwhelming victory for America. How many Americans died? It was 200 and something actually died in combat. It's like 400 something people total. What resulted for the war in terms of what happened in Vietnam? It was an overwhelming American victory. We didn't get bogged down. You guys weren't alive, but that was the thing that George W. Bush was president. George H.W. Bush were president. So George H.W. Bush had promised this would not be another Vietnam. It was not. Military invasions. What three countries were invaded by the U.S. in the 1980s? We invaded Grenada, which is a little island, to go rescue some American medical students that were there when it became a communist country. We invaded Panama to get Manuel Noriega, who was the leader of Panama, but also wanted in the United States for lots of drug crimes. He was he was helping supply drugs and everything into the country. So there was lots of the CIA wanted him. The DEA had arrest warrants for him, and so we went ahead and sent people in to get him out. All right, and then the last country we invaded in the 1980s, we bombed Libya. We actually sent troops to Beirut, Lebanon. So there was lots of military involvement in the 1980s by the United States. Let's see, I think I missed one. Invasion of Grenada. Raid on Tripoli. Invasion of Panama. Persian Gulf War. We tried to rescue the Iranian hostages, and that rescue attempt failed. And several soldiers were killed when the two helicopters crashed. Right? Iran-Contra. What was the Iran-Contra scandal? What impact did it have? Iran-Contra was the United States was selling weapons illegally to Iran, taking the money, and then taking that money from weapon sales to Iran and giving that money to the Contras, who were a rebel group in El Salvador fighting against the communist government that the United States didn't like. But Congress had passed laws where the U.S. was not supposed to get involved in this, and so this was a secret, and it became known, and it went all the way up to the president. But Ronald Reagan kept denying that he had any knowledge of it, and they couldn't really prove that he did. But several people underneath him went to jail. So at that point, Reagan kept saying, "I do not recall." And now knowing, there's some people look back, President Reagan actually ended up having Alzheimer's. So by the end of his presidency there, when he was saying he doesn't recall giving orders for Iran-Contra, there are actually people now that really believe he may not actually recall because he was already in the early stages of Alzheimer's at the end of his presidency. Yuppies. What does yuppie mean? Young urban professional. And I don't know if any of you ever watched Duck Dynasty, but they were always complaining about, the dad was always complaining, the dad and the uncle were always complaining about yuppies. What happened to the Berlin Wall in 1989? It was torn down. Why was this such a historic moment? It reunification of Germany, the end of the Cold War. There's lots of symbolization behind that. There's a chunk of the Berlin Wall in our library that was donated. McDonald's opened in Moscow. Why was this such a big deal? What else was special about this McDonald's? It's the world's largest McDonald's. And why was it a big deal that it opened in Moscow? Once again, the end of the Cold War, capitalism coming to Russia, expanding American products, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This one is all up to you. Pick the 4 pieces of tech you like, and then pick the popular toys and everything. So that was your WebQuest assignment. All right. And then so for tomorrow, you're going to do the 80s quiz over Reagan's presidency. And guys, it's open note and everything. So and this is also for your attendance, and it's worth 20 points, unassisted points in the grade book. All right. And then watch this video, and then that'll be it for tomorrow. And then Thursday, we're going to do the 90s. We'll start the night. We'll just look at the 1990s, and then Tuesday you'll have a little 90s quiz, and that'll about wrap up the year. So hope you all had a good weekend, and hope you guys are getting ready to enjoy the summer, and hope to see some of you guys tomorrow when I do my Google Meet hangout at 9:15. Hope you guys have a good day. Bye.